Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, guys. Charles Oliveira just submitted Mateusz Gamrot in the second round, and it went as expected as possible, basically, because like Mateusz, I think he was a pretty huge underdog in this fight going, and for obvious reason, like he's the number 9 ranked lightweight in the world, but more importantly, he did show up short notice for this fight in Rio, so which I guess is fair enough because like he didn't deserve to fight Charles Oliveira. But if it was anyone like who actually like the thing is, like if it was anyone who could step up short notice to fight Charles in Rio, I don't think there could have been any better fight or any harder fight for Charles other than Gamrot, because Rafael Fiziev was his original opponent, and he obviously pulled out due to some injury or some issue. But anything, I'm just very glad that Charles finally got another classic submission, I guess you can say, because it was genuinely the first round. It was actually interesting because Mateusz, he is the one who actually engaged in the grappling, and it was, as I said, pretty interesting. And Charles tried to submit him in the first round. He at the end of the round, he grabbed a hold of him, and he really tried to like lock in the position, but unfortunately he couldn't. But that doesn't matter because in the second round, Charles's pressuring was very good, and for most of the round, basically, Gamer was on his back until he finally got submitted. He finally got dropped and then submitted. And the rear naked choke, it was just classic because first Charles like grabbed him like this, like from the inside, while while Gamrot's hand was here. Then when as soon as he realized that like Gamrot was struggling, he instantly like pulled it out and then did this, and that's absolutely beautiful. Like that's the level of jiu-jitsu that we know and love, and we know that we only get that high level of submission from Charles Oliveira. And to be honest, there's a thing called there's a thing that I'm noticing. It's and a lot of people, a lot of you guys are also noticing. It's the Ilya effect. Because every time Ilya brutally knocks out one of our favorite guys, Volkanovski, Holloway, and now Charles, they instantly come back with an amazing win. For example, examples are pretty clear, but Volkanovski dominated Diego Lopez. Then Max Holloway beat Dustin Poirier in the trilogy. Pretty sad, I know, but still very good performance by Max Holloway. And now Charles Oliveira submits Mateusz Gamrot, right after being knocked out by Topuria. But the thing is, a lot of people, including some huge guys like Mighty Mouse and DJ, in their podcast they told something like Charles is coming back way too fast, and like he shouldn't, like he's basically like panicking because like he can't let that finish go over his head, the Tuporia finish. And they're saying, they were saying stuff like that, like they shouldn't be. But honestly, I'll be honest, right? Because I feel like fighters, it doesn't matter if they win or lose, they should be this active. Like especially if it's if the fights end in the first round, like Merab, for example, like Merab does this absolutely well, because it doesn't matter if he beats a guy early or late, he will come back as soon as possible, because after beating Sean O'Malley the first time, he made a really quick turnaround and with a lot of injuries, because Sean inflicted a lot of pain on him in the fight. But he obviously won by his classic grappling, very fun, and chokehold, of course, kissing John in his forehead like 3 times, I think. Anyways, the thing that I'm saying is, I even before the fight, like I really thought that this would not be a bad decision for Charles. If anything, it's the best decision that Charles could make, because his previous fight was only one round. So that's that. Anyways, another thing that is very important to discuss here is what's next for Charles Oliveira. Charles obviously called out Max Holloway for the BMF title, and at this point he has more than enough rights to claim, to ask for the BMF fight. And that's actually very interesting because it will be a rematch. Uh, Charles fought Max, I think, like 2 billion years ago, when both of them were unranked, unknown fighters. And like now, it's a rematch, of course, and the hype's there because both of them just had great wins. And yeah, I think it's definitely it's definitely a right step for the UFC, and it definitely should be a title eliminator for sure. But that leaves another guy alone. Justin versus Ilya is basically confirmed at this point, and that leaves just another guy. Paddy. Before this fight, Paddy was heavily rumored to be fighting Max Holloway. In the upcoming few months. It was supposed to be announced, but now that Charles really wants it, and Max, I'm sure he would, like right now, the momentum that he has, I'm sure that he would, easily, like, he would really, I can see why he would be very eager to take that fight. And if that happens, in my opinion, if the situation ends up happening that way, Charles versus Max on the BMF, then I feel like Perry is the one who should fight Ilya, and Justin, get out of here, retire, bro. But obviously Justin is most likely fighting Ilya. Anyways, that's my thoughts on it, guys. You guys make sure to know what you guys think, and it's all. See you guys next time. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.